إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه وتعالى ونشكره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Viewers at home and our esteemed listeners all over the world, today we're also going to look at another important topic, which is focusing on raising responsible children as part of nation building. Raising responsible children as part of nation building. From the Islamic perspective, children are regarded as hibba, gifts from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most exalted. And He, Allah, gives this gift to whom He, Allah, wishes or is pleased with. That is why when we look at Quran, in Surah Shura, Quran chapter 42, from verse 49 to 50, Allah says, لِلَّهِ مُلُكُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ يَهَبُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ إِنَاثًا وَيَهَبُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ الذُّكُورَ أَوْ يُزَوِّجُهُمْ ذُكُرَانًا وَإِنَاثًا. Meaning that to Allah belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth. And He, Allah, creates whatever He wishes. And He, Allah, also grants female children to whom He is pleased with. And He also grants male children to whom He is pleased with. In some other cases, Allah combined the two, both males and female children to whomever Allah is pleased with. So it shows clearly that this is indeed a special gift from Allah. And because it is a special gift, the responsibility of raising responsible children who are supposed to be builders of a nation is not an easy task. It is not something that we should just handle with levity. Why? If we go back to the Quran, in Surah Al-Tahrim, Quran chapter 66, verse 6 specifically, Allah addresses the believers. He says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وعليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة. Allah says, oh, you who believe, protect yourselves and members of your family from the hellfire, whose fuel will be a combination of humanity, mankind, and stones. So even though Allah has given us these children as a gift, Allah wants us to ensure that we don't only appreciate that gift, but we also protect, we nurture, and we nourish that gift to maturity until when the owner of the gift recalls the gift. So having said this, our responsibility as parents is not just only to provide, food, shelter, clothing for our children, but it is also important for us to sow the seed of Tawheed, that is the creed of taking Allah as the only object that is worthy of being worshipped, the oneness of Allah. We must plant the seed in them. And that is why Allah in Quran chapter 17, Surah Bani Israel, from verse 23 to 24, Allah says, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah says, Allah has decreed, has ordained for you that you worship none except Allah alone. And then after that, you also treat nicely, behave nicely to your parents. So for parents to be able to enjoy their children behaving nicely to them, they also have a responsibility to ensure that they raise those children with the fear of Allah in them from their childhood. And this starts from the moment the mother or the wife are about to choose a spouse for themselves. So having brought the child home to this world, our responsibility goes beyond, just ensuring that, like I've said, giving them food, putting them under a care, providing housing or clothing for them. No, we must also ensure that first and foremost, we make them to understand and to know the creator of the universe, the creator of man, who is the provider of sustenance, who is the giver of life and death to these children. That is why, number one, as parents, we must ensure that we are practical in whatever we are doing at home before our children. Importantly, we must also be very punctual and regular in the observance of our 5 daily prayers and let our children see this in us. We must also be very punctual and regular in our morning and evening askar. That is the remembrance of Allah that we chant. And we must also involve our children in doing it. We must also be regular in making dua, supplications to our children. We must always ask Allah to continue to provide the guidance for these children. We must equally be regular in the recitation of our Quran. And we must also engage our children. We must also allow them to learn it from us, or you employ a teacher that will teach them about the Quran, the meaning of the Quran, and then the tafsir of the Quran. Having done this, it is also very important for us as parents to know that for us to be able to raise responsible children, as parents, we must also have certain skills which are required for us to be able to have successful children and responsible children who are going to be builders of the nation. Among these important skills that we parents will require to be able to raise our children responsibly is that, number one, we must build a strong relationship, with your spouse. Before your children, you must demonstrate your kindness, your politeness, behave nicely to your spouse before your children. You must also, don't pick, the flaws of your spouse before your children. You must also give good compliments of your spouse, even when outside the home before people. Because when you are doing this, your children are also learning, practically from you. And then you must also ensure that you understand the fact that homes where there is what we call low conflict families, the propensity to rear children that will be highly responsible and equally, have a very good sense of responsibility will be very, very high compared to homes where we have high conflict families, where, children who are reared under such families, their propensity also to be irresponsible also may be very, very high. Number two, also, we must focus on our children's positive behavior. Most parents make mistakes by always focusing on the negative behavior of their children. No. Management consultants have come up with evidence-based research that shows that children that manifest, good behavior and we build on those good behavior are most likely going to, succeed and be responsible and successful in life, especially when we always try to make them have a sense of say in anything that affects us in our home. For example, there's nothing saying or stopping a father or a mother from saying, oh, my son, oh, my daughter, what is your opinion on this particular issue? Remember the case of Prophet Ibrahim and Ismail. When he called Prophet Ibrahim called Ismail, he says, Ya bunayya, inni ara fil manami anni azbahuka madha tanzuru. Oh my son, I had a dream in which I saw myself about to slaughter you. What is your opinion? Look at the son. The son said, Yeah, Abati, oh my father, if al-matumar, do what you have been commanded in your dream. Satajiduni insha'Allah minas sabirin. You will always find me patient perseverance. So it is important that we also focus on their positive rather than their negative. Number three, also, it is important that we assist our children to develop their social skills. That is, don't be a father that says, do what I say, but don't do what I do. We must teach our children, the etiquette of speaking the truth, the etiquette of being honest, the etiquette, of being, patient perseverance, the etiquette of being, empathic with people, the etiquette of being generous. All these things we must teach our children, and they must also see it in us that we are also doing it, so that our case will not be like, don't do what I do, but do what I say. Then also, it is also important for me to mention that we must equally teach our children, the lesson of how to face challenges and not always to see challenges from the negative point of view, especially when they are given responsibility. Today's world is where we see children who do not want to go through the normal process of development. They want a fast lane. You give them a responsibility, say, oh, this responsibility is very, very tough, it's very, very difficult. Let me look for, a short one or an easier one. As Muslims, we must learn, we must be able to teach them to say, look, son, look, daughter, you can do it. Why don't you give it a trial? That it may be a fun. By the time you start, you discover that it may be a fun. It's a way of encouraging our children not to be able to run away from their responsibility. Finally, it is also important for us not to do what not to do the responsibility that we expect our children to do for them. In other words, don't be like a pilot parent, always hovering around your children. When we do this, among others, we are going to build or raise children that will be responsible nation builders, if not today, tomorrow.